Good morning, guys. This is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Welcome to my channel, and thank you, as always, for allowing me to be part of your day. Guys, I want to talk to you about Gypsy, but the bigger picture. So I woke up this morning and night combos. When I say I woke up this morning, that was at 4 a.m. Okay. Night combos had a video that just went up like 3 minutes before I woke up, and I looked at that and I said to myself, this is a young couple. He's probably asleep because I know he works, and she's out here working on her videos. And then I started looking and I thought, Barbara Ann's got a new video out. Becca's got lives coming out and a bunch of new information. Everybody is on point as far as working hard to show what's going on with Gypsy Rose. Everybody is showing the true narrative. It's not a narrative that we made up. It's a narrative that exists. The saddest bit that just gets me is that in the grand scheme of things, what will it matter? Are we making a wrong a right? Are we correcting something? Are we correcting something that isn't understood by people? Are we spinning our wheels? Are we just want to be detectives? Why is it so important to us to get the story out there? And I just feel compelled, believe it or not, to throw the Good Wives Network Fancy in on this. Because even though I don't care for Fancy and I don't like her presentation, she has been screaming a narrative that is very much the same narrative everybody else is screaming, and that is Gypsy Rose unalived her mom and Dee Dee never had Munchausen by proxy. I had said a long time ago, Becca Scoops has said it a couple times now. I think we've all said it. There was an interview with a woman doctor who said that if Gypsy Rose would have unalived her mom and her mom had Munchausen by proxy, Gypsy Rose would be the only documented case. Okay, so I agree with Becca. Gypsy's not that unique when it comes to stuff like that, but she's too damn lucky when it comes to re-election years, or when it comes to lazy detectives, or when it comes to lazy public defenders. She lucked out as if it was a miracle. She unalived her mom. She got 8.5 years. We can clearly see, even at the trial, her instructional video, so much stuff came out that made Gypsy definitely look horribly guilty. It didn't take away her guilt. What it did was take away Nick's naivete, Nick's ignorance. That's what it Nick didn't get. That Gypsy said, it was my idea. I stole all this stuff. I planned it. I asked him. In a video, she says, I asked him a question. Would you kill my mom? That's not like, can you get me a soda out of there? Do you mind if I borrow a few dollars? Is there anything that you need? Would you kill my mom? Like, that doesn't, red flags. And Gypsy says it as if it shouldn't throw red flags. Okay. So there's something wrong with that. No, you don't think so? And the average bear listening to that would say, what, are you joking? Huh? I must have misheard that. No. But Gypsy is walking around And we know that she lives within her dialogue. My problem with that, the police keep failing, and the people that keep finding this stuff out are regular people, people that use critical thinking. And then you get some people with some knowledge and some schooling, like Becca, who can understand certain medical evaluations in certain medical terms. And then, Mitch, who is a retired detective. So when you have that combination, you might be able to figure out a lot more than your average bear, your average content creator like me. However, we're using critical thinking and looking at things and saying, wait, if Gypsy says this, how can this be so? If Gypsy says she was paralyzed, how can she sit crisscross? If Gypsy was so ABUSED'd, where's the photos of that? Where is Dee Dee's benefit in any of this? And we can determine from another point of view, we're all valuable in this. And nobody's insinuating that somebody's more valuable than the other person. And I'm not doing that either. What I'm saying is there's a bunch of people at work here trying to expose Gypsy. And all of us, we already know who she is. Like, is there anything that can really surprise us about Gypsy anymore, except for the fact that she's so blatant and pretty creative and imaginative with things like toothbrushes and stuff like that? But a crime was committed. Two, if you ask me, Nick and Dee Dee, because Nick's in prison because of her coercive control. She looked for somebody. Who was it? Pink Hat Sarah, the kidnapper in the Fancy Maselli case, supposedly, right? That wasn't, which we know better, right? I haven't heard from Pink Hat Sarah. I think she had cancer. I hope she's okay. She said Gypsy hired a KILLER, a hitman for her mom. And she used her body and a promise of tomorrow to pay for it. Now, I've watched Barb. And, I have to say, I don't watch Barb a lot. I don't know why. I think it's because I just keep getting videos and Barb isn't in that. But she probably will be now because I've been watching the last couple of her videos. And I agree with so much that she's saying. And she had gotten to a point that she was reading about in the FOIAs and in the information, that she received about how she thought that Gypsy was supposed to say that Nick kidnapped her. I still think that something was supposed to happen and Nick wasn't supposed to leave the house, but that plan A failed. And then she went to plan B. And I think she was trying to figure that out as it was going on. That's what I think about Gypsy Rose and June 10th. There are things that have come out that show, Barb showed that Dee Dee hadn't used her phone since like June 7th, June 8th. That is odd. Not a text, not anything, not to check anything on your phone. That's kind of weird. I know it was 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, right? But for her not to use her phone for at least 2 days, we know that she passed away. Now, Barb said 2 a.m. on the morning of the 10th. I don't know that I can honestly say that I could be that specific. Not when you find a body later and you don't have anybody saying exactly what happened. Like the body was found later. So Gypsy had already spent a couple days So, I mean, and they were still in Missouri. Remember, they couldn't leave right away. Gypsy didn't get herself a return ticket. See, that's the thing that I'm talking about. Okay. And then Gypsy had it in her not to get rid of the weapon, the KNIFE, by throwing it down a drain, pipe, garbage can, anything, right? Nope. She sent it to Nick's house. See, I think that there was a second plan coming into play, but that wasn't the original plan. But it doesn't matter because the unaliving of her mom already happened, and that's the crime. That's the crime right there. So, I don't know had they have ever found the remains of Gabby Petito if there wasn't somebody on YouTube that watched everything go down and say, I remember seeing that van, and then getting authorities. It was the internet that found Gabby's body, at least as quickly as Gabby's body was found. That's the truth. Jen Soto, who I keep bringing up because she's not being charged with anything, obviously. The Maddie Soto case is done. 13-year-old girl unalive 4 days after her 13th birthday and had been sexually assaulted by her mom's boyfriend, supposedly knowingly, for at least 4 to 5 years. She wasn't charged with not even neglect of a child, let alone allowing it to happen, which I 100% believe. You know why? Because of critical thinking. You know why? Because she said, I'm afraid of being left like a Woody Allen, Mia Farrow scenario. Well, where'd she get that from? Where is her little crystal ball? Nope. The police didn't see that as a, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, let's arrest her. That's neglect. How did she know that? Circumstantial evidence alone. How do you think that would have been? How do you think that would have been? So, in a court, either with a judge or a jury, you mean to tell me that nobody would have said, wait a minute, somebody who is explaining how big the man's organ is and how uncomfortable it was for her, a grown woman who had plenty of times, gave birth and everything, that person, how uncomfortable it was for her because of his size. She didn't notice anything in her daughter when he did it to the daughter? Are you kidding me? There wasn't a different walk. There wasn't any screaming. There wasn't any come on here. But yet, Jen Soto wasn't charged with anything. You mean to tell me that if that would have went to court, Jen Soto would be free and clear? She wouldn't have even gotten neglect, let alone maybe a co-charge here. I don't know why the police aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. For the love of God, I can't figure out why the authorities are leaving it to content creators. But it's, in my opinion, that's what's going on now. I don't have any degree in anything. I count on fellow content creators, things that you guys send me, things that I look up. But I don't have any nursing degree. I don't have any cop degree. I had a drug counselor's certificate, the KSAC, and I worked in the jails for a pretty long time. And I've been around for 62 years. And I people watch and I pay attention. And I've taken so many courses in college. But when it comes down to it, it's really my opinion, my critical thinking. It's all of ours. But the question remains the same. What happens What happens? We have proved Gypsy to be more guilty than she was penalized for. But was she more guilty than the second-degree charge she got? And even if she was, and it comes out that she did the unaliving, isn't that double jeopardy? Or are they gonna grab her on sending the KNIFE to the other state? And are they gonna go back to the crime that was put together online so that they make it international? Or does Gypsy just get away with it and get caught later and it's just too bad? That's what I'm asking. That's the conversation. What happens now? Guys, this is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I'd love to have this conversation. Be better today than you were yesterday, not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. And to all the content creators out there in 1980s reading FOIAs, Amber, Into the Weeds podcast, Cutting Board Dawn is doing stuff, Barb, Becca, Night Combos, Morgan Elena, Angel Baby. I mean, there's so many. Pink Chihuahua, Mandy, Snarky Beesh, Anxious Ant Crimes. You know it. There's so many, guys. So grateful. All right, guys, be better today than you were yesterday. Not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. This is Issues with Toddy One Skip, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much.